Tell me a little bit about your childhood.
As I said, it was somewhat nomadic in that we were constantly on the move. My father was an only child. His mother was a Texas rancher's daughter. That's the only way she's ever been described to me, and I wish I'd asked her many more questions before she passed away. And his father died when he was very young. So they, well, you're going to tell me more, so I won't say anything. But he was born in Dallas, Texas, as I understand it, grew up, and then when his father passed away, they moved to California. And then as I was born, he was in Washington, D.C., working with, I think, the Truman administration, then Eisenhower, and then moved on to New York to take a job working in aviation, I think with the Rockefellers, and then a job again in his field was law, in I think aviation-related law, I'm not 100% sure, in California. Then we were back for President Kennedy's administration in Washington, which was really the beginning of my social and political consciousness, and set the sort of principles and direction for the rest of my life and my work. And then we were again in New York after President Kennedy was assassinated, and my father worked briefly for President Johnson. And then I went away to school, and that was about the end of it. But for me, my childhood was spent in different communities, constantly moving around. I was the eldest child, so I was a loner in many respects, and quite shy. And but at the same time, there are these moments that stand out. One I described to you, looking out over the Pacific Ocean.
It's a beautiful image.
And connecting with the rest of the world as a child. Washington during the time of President Kennedy's administration and his inaugural exhortation to Americans to serve, not to expect to be given, you know, to receive, but in fact to give of themselves to their country. The Peace Corps, which became in my diary written at the time, there's I listed what I hoped what my goals were for my life, and that was to join the Peace Corps. And then Martin Luther King, who again was another heroic model for me alongside President Kennedy and my father in many respects, but in terms of his love of public service and teaching me about how much more fulfilling that could be than much more lucrative work in the private sector, because he knew both. And it was the public service, even while he was struggling with financial debt as a public servant, that he found most fulfilling.
Oh, that's great.
These were lessons that never left me.